We've got breaking news out of the NFL where the Pittsburgh Steelers have verbally agreed to hire Mike McCarthy as their next head coach. Pittsburgh native will replace Mike Tomlin, who stepped down after 19 seasons with the Steelers. McCarthy was most recently the coach of the Cowboys for 5 years before being fired at the end of the 2024 season. And prior to that, he was in charge of the Packers for 13 years, winning a Super Bowl during the 2010 season, beating the Steelers that year in the Super Bowl. Here's our two-time Super Bowl champ Brian McFadden predicting shortly after Mike Tomlin had stepped down earlier in the month.
I think they might do it differently this time because of where the organization is. So I'll go with Mike McCarthy. I'll go Mike McCarthy. And the reason I'll go with Mike McCarthy is because, number one, he has Pittsburgh ties. He's a Western PA individual, if I'm not mistaken. He has a significant love for the organization. He understands the tradition and the prestige within the organization. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. Unfortunately, he beat us in that Super Bowl victory that he accomplished. And he understands offensive structure and the quarterback position.
Let's bring in Brian McFadden, who has been known to be prophetic at times. I can certainly vouch for that. B-Mac, you called it back then. What are you thinking about the Steelers going to social media announcing Mike McCarthy today?
Yes, I called it weeks ago, but hearing the news today that it is a reality, I'm a bit shocked and I'm confused, Tommy. And the reason why I'm confused and I'm shocked is because of the timing of this announcement. When you look at Mike McCarthy throughout this entire coaching carousel that we've all watched, it seems like there were only two organizations that were tied to him just a tad bit, right? In the Tennessee Titans and the New York Giants. Both said organizations, they've hired their coach moving forward. So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and if you really had a significant liking with Mike McCarthy, you weren't pressed to make this decision happen today, because what I heard was based on some of the interviews that they completed. Chris Shula did a phenomenal job in his virtual interview. And because of his dealings with the Los Angeles Rams, and they're currently still in the playoffs, you can't have that in-person interview like you like to have. So if you just waited maybe 48 hours, of course, with the NFC Championship game being completed by the end of Sunday, then you potentially could get that in-person interview with a guy like Chris Shula and really get a great understanding on if this is a guy you would like to build your future around as the potential head coach replacing Mike Tomlin. But the organization felt like this was the deal they needed to make known today publicly. And with that being said, they're moving on with Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, you mentioned making things known publicly. The social media team for the Pittsburgh Steelers only had two tweets today, B-Mac. It was that they had came to a verbal agreement with Mike McCarthy and that they also have the 21st overall pick in the draft. They continue to be in the position of being in this late teens, early 20s of the draft because Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season, but they still have questions at quarterback. B-Mac, what do you think they do there?
See, that's the big question mark, because being in the 20s, you're not in an ideal position to potentially draft a young quarterback moving forward. And if you look at this quarterback class for 2026, it's not the deepest class. It's not a class that's saturated with talented players like we've seen in years past. So one would say, do you want to go out and reach to try to draft a quarterback in the 20s? And they kind of did this years ago with a watered-down quarterback class that included the likes of Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, and Malik Willis. So it didn't work out well for them then, so who knows what will happen. But I can say this, Tommy, when you look at Mike McCarthy throughout his professional head coaching career, this is an unfamiliar spot for him, because if you look at what he walked into when he became the head coach for the Green Bay Packers, he walked into a sound quarterback room, a guy in Aaron Rodgers who was the starting quarterback. When you look at what he walked into there in Dallas, an experienced quarterback who played football at a high level. He's walking into a situation where there's a lot of unknowns at that position, the total opposite than what he had there in Green Bay and in Dallas. And how will he approach this situation? How will he build upon this situation moving forward? We have to wait and see. But like I said, being in the 20s for this upcoming draft in the first round, I don't know if you would like to use that first round pick on a quarterback, knowing how watered down this quarterback draft will be.
So we just flashed up one of our draft analysts, Josh Edwards. He has Ty Simpson currently going to the Steelers there. We also saw a graphic of Aaron Rodgers, which obviously has his ties to Mike McCarthy. Would you want to go young quarterback, as you kind of hinted at, weak class BMAC, or maybe kick the tires on Aaron Rodgers one more time, or go with a different quarterback in this next season?
Well, me personally, I wouldn't roll the dice and taking a quarterback in round one. In the 20, you said 21st, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't roll the dice taking a chance on a quarterback at 21 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what I would do is, if Aaron Rodgers would like to come back, okay, cool. Let's roll the dice and go with Aaron Rodgers. Both individuals know each other extremely well, and Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. And if Aaron Rodgers decides, you know what, enough is enough, it's time to get ready for my potential Hall of Fame induction, then okay, cool. Then we go with Will Howard. And the reason why I throw Will Howard's name into this conversation is because if you look at Will Howard in his final year at Ohio State compared to the potential mock with Ty Simpson, I would say Will Howard did more, in my opinion, in his final year at Ohio State than Ty Simpson. I would definitely say, and I don't think the football fans would disagree with me, Will Howard had a more defined collegiate career than Ty Simpson. Remember, Ty Simpson was only a one-year starter. And yes, he played phenomenally. He played well. He had a phenomenal start to the season, but he didn't finish with the same spark that he started the season off with there at Alabama. So those are the two names that I definitely would roll with outside of rolling the dice and trying to hit a lucky seven to get that potential franchise quarterback at 21. Because like I said, when you look at this quarterback class collectively, you got Mendoza, and then you got a bunch of question marks who could follow Mendoza. And I don't think that's appealing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and seeing how it didn't work out well for them years ago when they drafted Kenny Pickett.
Here's a look at Ryan Wilson's quarterback rankings. He only thinks there's 2 day 1 guys, only 2 day 2 guys, and then there's projects there on day 3. You would know better than most, BMAC, just sort of the vibe around the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise, its fan bases. We're taking a look here at fewest head coaching in team history. We know that they've only had 3 since the 60s, and here comes Mike McCarthy. What do you think, though, the window of opportunity is going to be for a 62-year-old head coach coming into Pittsburgh?
It has to be now, the window of opportunity, because Pittsburgh, they did something that they usually don't do when they hire coaches. They hired an older individual, Mike McCarthy, who is 62. You look at when they hired Chuck Noll, I think he was in his early 40s. Remember, he coached 20-plus years for the organization. When Chuck Noll retired, they hired Bill Cowher, who was 34 years old. He coached that organization for 15 years. And then in comes Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin was also 34, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But he coached for 19 years. So you see the trend that we've seen with the previous 3 head coaches for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those guys coached easily, had double-digit coaching seasons for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you're telling me you're looking to have the same length when it comes to coaching for the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mike McCarthy, who's 62. In a decade, he's 72. Right? And who knows if he would like to continue to be coaching or if he still has that energy and the spark to do so at a high level. We don't know. But right now, when you look at this deal right now with Mike McCarthy, it seemed like this could be a situation where this is a 5 or 6 year move, knowing where he is at his age and knowing where he is at his coaching career. This is his 3rd head coaching opportunity. 3rd. The other previous head coaches, that was their 1st. Being a head coach. So the energy was there. The vibes was there for them. Who knows if Mike McCarthy might get burned out in year 3 or year 4 or year 5. And one thing we know about the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't go in this coaching carousel often. I mean, heck, Tommy, we have more sticky Lombardis than head coaches. Think about that. Mm-hmm. So that's why this is a bit shocking for me, because they're traveling a different road than what they've traveled in the previous 3 hires. And the one thing that the previous 3 hires had with the road they traveled, they all found their way to the home of a sticky Lombardi.
Yeah, it makes it even more interesting given everything you laid out just from a pure football fan and someone outside of the Steelers community in Pittsburgh area. They're certainly going against what they've done the last few decades. BMAC, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for your insight, as always, into this McCarthy-Steelers marriage. Here's a look at the coaching carousel. It was crazy because at one point Zach Taylor was the only one left standing You had John Harbaugh who left, got a new gig in New York. Mike Tomlin, so far not a part of this cycle yet. We've seen Kevin Stefanski also receive a new job there in Atlanta. So here we go. 4 teams left to go with the Mike McCarthy Steelers news today. Well,